Hello everyone, my name is Faberia Pendragon, we are the Whisperers, and this is how to play Mercenary in Risk of Rain Returns. This is intended to be a comprehensive guide covering unlock to proper usage, so if there's anything you're looking to learn, odds are you'll find it here. Mercenary is a high mobility melee with an interesting use of abilities that grant invincibility and movement options. He's a lot like Miner in that regard actually, and in a sense you could say he's a side grade to Miner that can feel more rewarding to skilled players. Proper use and timing of his abilities can allow you to stay in a fight for much longer than you may initially expect to be possible, and that's something we're going to talk about a good deal as we go. Now then, time to learn the way of the blade. Acquiring Mercenary is pretty straightforward. Just beat the game 5 times. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if it isn't on Monsoon it doesn't count, play the game how you like, but I will say, just like Sniper, I recommend trying not to cheese it with like damage modifiers or artifacts, as you're going to learn a lot that will help you with actually playing the character once you have him unlocked. Mercenary's primary is, of course, his laser sword. You swing 3 times and on the 3rd strike deal extra damage and knock enemies into the air. You can turn around between each set of swings and jump around while swinging to get quite a lot of movement while attacking. Moving and striking like this can feel weird at first, but give it some time and practice and you should get the hang of it just fine. His secondary is Whirlwind. You perform a slashing front flip, hitting any nearby enemies twice. Nearby is a bit of a stretch though, because the range is much larger than the visual. Also, this pops you up slightly, so you can stay in the air with it a bit longer, prevent fall damage, and get up to places just slightly out of reach. Additionally, it can be mixed in with your other attacks to sneak in free damage. We'll touch more on that in a bit, but in short, you're going to want to be making use of that incredibly low 2-second cooldown. Mercenary's utility is Blinding Assault. On its own, it's just a forwards dash with invincibility, and a small one at that. But strike an enemy, and the dash is reset up to 3 times, allowing you to damage and stun groups of enemies safely. This is where we get into timings, because between each dash you have about 3 to 4 seconds, allowing you to mix in, say, a Whirlwind, or some Sword Strikes, or your next ability. For the special, Mercenary uses Eviscerate. You move with a blinding speed, vanishing from view and striking the nearest enemy repeatedly. When you kill an enemy, it'll jump to the next nearest to finish its duration if it hasn't already. And with an Ancient Scepter, it will also reset that duration on kill, jumping from one enemy to the next to the next to the next until eventually one of them doesn't die. New players to Mercenary will often make one critical mistake with his kit, and it's the same as Miner. Not spreading out your invincibility frames and your stuns, charging at a group of enemies, using all 3 of your dashes, then a Whirlwind, then an Eviscerate before awkwardly trying to clean up with Sword Strikes, and that's exactly how you give your enemies far too much opportunity to fight back, and therefore wind up dead. Instead, use one dash, then a Whirlwind, then another dash, then Eviscerate, then another dash, and another Whirlwind. Toss in some normal strikes when you can. By mixing in abilities like this, you stuff every ounce of damage that you can into about the same period of time, making sure there's less enemies left standing by the end of your combo, and ensuring they spend as much time stunned as possible, which all minimizes their chance to fight back and send you to God. Or Providence, rather. Mithrix? I don't know, insert deity-like being of choice here. My point is, mix your abilities together. In games like Final Fantasy XIV, this is called weaving, and it's the easiest way to elevate your Mercenary gameplay by an order of magnitude almost immediately. Want to push things further though? We'll say no more, because Mercenary's ults have come to save the day, and oh boy are they good. He's got ults for his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th ability, each of which are acquired through Providence trials. Alt 2, Focus Strike, is earned by completing the trial Don't Think, Feel, which just has you use the skill. Nice and straightforward while also being effective at helping you learn the timing. Alt 3, Skyward Assault, is acquired from Assassination Contract. I love this trial, it's like a mini solo adventure game built right into the main game. I recommend going for the Wandering Vagrant first because Nematosis Nozzle can really help make a lot of the rest of this trial a bit easier to handle, but from there I'm gonna let you explore and have fun finding everything in this one. Alt 4, After Image, comes from the trial Shadows of the Past, where you engage in a brutal battle against your dark counterpart. This one is tough. First thing you need to do when you approach your clone is jump. He always leads with a dash to try and stun lock you, and remember that because he's gonna try every time it goes on cooldown. You're gonna want to remember what I talked about before as well and make very good use of weaving here. Just remember that you're using the ult special instead of Eviscerate. Also, don't use either healing pod until you've beaten his first phase, And if you can play well enough to save them both until the last phase, that should make your life even easier, especially since the last phase spawns 2 more Elder Lemurians and a Magma Worm, all while your clone is attacking you. It's gonna feel like bullshit, and maybe it is a little bit, but it's gonna make you make the most of your abilities, and odds are you're gonna be a better mercenary player going out than you were coming in. Now that we've got the ults, how do we use them? First, and by far my favorite, Whirlwind is replaced by Focus Strike.
Parry this casual.
Okay. You press and hold to sheath your weapon and release right before an attack hits. If you time it correctly, you strike back with a frankly fucking stupidly large hitbox and equally absurd damage, while also being immune to incoming damage. Honestly, fantastic. Such a damn fun ability. High risk, but very high reward. Next, Alt 3 replaces Blinding Assault with Skyward Assault. You strike into the air, then can hit the button again to slam down. Both parts of this ability have invincibility and do solid damage. Additionally, while there isn't a window to weave in other abilities anymore, you can mix up the timing on your second hit, either immediately hitting the key again to strike twice basically while staying in place, or waiting until you've completed the upwards lunge to reach a group of enemies from a distance. Add the fact that it's far better for general purpose mobility and has a second faster cooldown, and this makes for a very solid trade-off. Lastly, Alt 4 swaps Eviscerate for After Image. Instead of becoming impossible to hit, all of your attacks strike twice, albeit at half efficiency. Over the course of a run though, this is an absurd damage increase, especially if you hit it right before going for a parry on an enemy. Additionally, if you have an Ancient Scepter, the attacks are quadrupled instead, making this just a ridiculous damage boost. As you can see, the ult set is very powerful and overall is a higher risk set as it sacrifices a lot of your invincibility or makes it conditional, like requiring proper parry timing, but it rewards you for that risk with noticeably higher damage and mobility. If you prefer the weaving heavy playstyle, I recommend running the main set, possibly with Alt 4, but I love running Alt 2 and 3 while keeping Eviscerate for a bit of a safety net. This gives me a more direct approach, but does require a bit more technical skill beyond just timing my weaves properly, while also still rewarding me for cleverly using Skyward Assault or Eviscerate to dodge and do damage at once in between parry cooldowns, letting me stay in a fight as long as I want, so long as I don't make a mistake. In short, Mercenary demands good technical execution, but I think he's wonderfully rewarding to the players who provide that to him. And don't let that seemingly intimidating barrier to entry scare you. While he does take some precision, to an extent, so does this entire game. So I firmly believe you can learn to play him very well, given the time and practice, and I think if you do, you will very much enjoy it. Now then, what items pair best with a kit like this? It's time for the item wish list. Mercenary has an excellent kit to begin with and doesn't really lack for damage, so items that help you stay alive if you slip up can be nice. Topaz Brooch is excellent for giving you a grace period, so to speak, where maybe if you've overextended for too long, at least you can take one hit and not instantly die from it. Of course, the usual suspects like Goat Hoof and Soldier's Syringe are good, they're good on everyone, but crit classes do have a particular synergy I'll talk about later. Backup Mag is great no matter what secondary you run because it's just more damage, and having 1 or 2 means that you can almost always parry. The real winner in white though is the Toxin. The fact this item is even in the white rarity is frankly absurd, and it pairs even better with melee characters who can freely move through crowds. And speaking of items that deserve to be a rarity higher, Hermit's Scarf on any melee character, or really any character, is fantastic. In green, last time with Enforcer, I forgot to mention Prophet's Cape, and I won't be making the same mistake here. When you deflect damage with a parry, it also counts as blocking for the purposes of Prophets. We're not talking parry once and go straight back to full health, but it can be a very good way to help you recover from stray hits, and each attack prevented will give more healing. So if you parry an entire crowd, you actually could be looking at a lot more health. Tough Times can be nice for letting you get away with another hit, much like Topaz, same goes for Guardian's Heart, and of course items that hurt enemies that get too close are great. Charge Field Generator will even let you damage enemies from a solid distance to soften them up before you get into range. In reds, color me surprised because 2 videos in a row I'm saying Ancient Scepter is good enough to mention outright. Don't get me wrong, Ancient Scepter isn't bad, but I usually don't mention items here unless they seriously stand out, since, especially in red, most of the items are already good. But the improvements to both abilities here are amazing. Hardlight Afterburner is also fantastic because just like backup mags, it's just damage, but more. And in this case, you can also be getting a lot more movement and crowd stunts, so yeah, pretty awesome. Interstellar Desk Plant can be nice for helping you stay in a fight or create a safe spot to fall back to, and of course, melee means Tesla Coil good. But all you Risk of 1 players know what's coming. I know what you're waiting for. Wicked Ring is absurd on anyone. 1 second cooldown reduction per crit is nuts, but when you have a kit full of abilities that make you invincible, this is me, just standing in a horde. I know you basically can't make out what's happening here, neither could I, and I was the one playing the game, but I'm just spamming the 4th ability key while I hold primary. I eviscerate, do a few swings, then eviscerate again. Crits landed during eviscerate don't count, those days are long gone, but I can't do a mercenary video and not mention the insanity that is crit build mercenary. For equipment items, prescriptions can be good for offense while shield gen is great defensively, and crudely drawn buddy can be nice to take the heat off you. Then again, don't be a coward. Do it. Take the glowing meteorite. You're good. You'll parry them all. Do it. Take the meteorite. Do it. Do it. Anyways. In gold, Nematosis Nozzle is really nice for melee characters in general, and Scorching Shell Piece is great for giving you that grace window like Topaz does, but better, because it's basically combined with a fire shield. And that's about it. Like I said earlier, I think Mercenary does take a lot of technical skill to really bring the most out of, but I think he also really highly rewards it, and I think if you take the time to learn it, you will find yourself very thoroughly rewarded and very much enjoying the character. So I hope this video has helped you to do exactly that. That being said, if you want to learn more, there is a playlist for all of these guides. You can also subscribe, and when you do subscribe, you'll get to see the polls for how I decide which character goes next. But for now, that's all from me, and I hope to see you all again very soon.